Welcome to Money Talks. My name is Mike Campbell. I'm glad you're with us. There's so much happening these days in the world. I mean, so much to talk about, but I'm excited to get Brian Gitt on with us. Brian has done a phenomenal job of really bringing some practicality, some reality to the whole climate energy debate. He's an expert on energy. We're going to talk about a lot about nuclear, by the way, too. I mean, what are the solutions going to be? I think it's getting exposed that we have to go toward that. But anyways, you're going to find it fascinating. I've also got to talk with Ozzy, and I've got Victor Adair. Lots happening. I've got Michael Levy talking about all sorts of things. And Justin Smith is with me from Hawkeye Wealth. Kind of interesting. I think there may be some, I always think when there's some sort of difficult times that may produce opportunities, though, if you're out there. We'll talk specifically about pre-sales rather, and some of the things you should look for because there are better deals than others. But first, the Liberal government's move to raise capital gains taxes, I think reflects, the massive political divide that's in Canada today. And I don't think it's going to be sort of married in there. They're not going to bridge that divide. We've got those who prioritize bigger government, more government intervention versus those that I think prioritize economic growth. What's been immediately noticeable, though, since Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland introduced the capital gains increase, is that not once did she or the Prime Minister ever try and rationalize it on the basis of it's good for the economy. No, they had other stories, but not on the basis it was good for the economy. And the reason's straightforward, because it's not. No, not once, though, did the government say it'll address our two major economic issues: the serious decline in productivity per capita. I mean, it's dropped 12 out of the last 15 quarters, or the decline in capital investment, just as big a worry, if not more. Well, if you adjust for inflation, we've had a 13.9% decline in capital investment between 2015, the third quarter, and 2024, the first quarter. In fact, raising the capital gains tax makes it more difficult to attract capital needed. We need it to invest in technology, machinery, intellectual capital in order to improve our productivity and our standard of living. But in rationalizing the increase, you want to notice this. There's been absolutely no talk of merit. No mention that someone may have actually worked harder or worked longer hours. Maybe they paid for an education a lot more than the normal years, or some sort of training. Or maybe they took a risk, or they made, some certain financial choices, which resulted in accumulating wealth and income. I mean, there's no mention, though, that the high income earners pay a significantly higher share of income tax. With the top 10%, 1%, let's say, the top 1%, they earn about 10.4% of the total Canadian income, but they pay 22.6% of total federal, provincial, territorial income taxes collected. So I think the suggestion that somehow they're not paying is a bit much. By the way, the bottom half of income earners, that's about 14.6 million people with the latest stuff from StatsCan. Well, they earn nearly 19% of total Canadian income, pay 6% of federal, provincial, and territorial income tax. Instead, the government's revived that old class warfare rhetoric of years gone by stating there's this group of people, maybe they're doctors, real estate investors, entrepreneurs, and others who have owned, maintained, maybe even they renovated their real estate, had it for decades, who are not paying their fair share. The implication being that somehow they're getting away with something. But that's not new. I mean, keep in mind that Justin Trudeau hadn't been in office long before he went after small business owners. And he stated in quotes, a large percentage of small businesses are actually just ways for wealthier Canadians to save in their taxes. I mean, that was utter nonsense. The stats didn't support that view at all, but it shows you his mindset. What's notable, although few in the commentary seem to have noticed, is how far left the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister Freeland have taken the Liberal Party from the days of Jean Chrétien and Paul Martin, who pushed to lower the capital gains taxes, not raising them. In their words, in Paul Martin's words, if companies are going to invest, we want them to invest in Canada. If they're going to create jobs, we want them to be created in Canada. If young people are going to have opportunities, we want those opportunities to be right here in Canada. Well, that's the antithesis of the approach taken by the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister. And so is their attitude, though, of record borrowing or continual deficits. I mean, that's the opposite of what Paul Martin did and what Jean Chrétien did, who dramatically reined in government spending and reduced the deficits. But simply put, the Liberal government has other priorities. totally legitimate. You can choose other things. You can have your priorities, others can, but their priorities are for a bigger role for government in society. And that translates into higher levels of taxation, more regulation, greater emphasis on wealth redistribution, and climate change is a far bigger priority than the economy. I mean, with the NDP a willing partner, now, of course, the Conservatives disagree. If they form government, will be interesting with the Conservatives, because if they do form government, it's going to be interesting to see what extent they put policies in place that prioritize improving productivity and attracting capital investment. I mean, because I'll tell you, at this stage, half measures are not going to do it. I think they'll get about 10 minutes to send a strong message that capital is not only welcome, but that the government welcomes success. Now, come on, it's not a new philosophical divide between wealth redistribution versus economic growth, but I think the context is different. We have record government debt along with record consumer debt in a world awash in debt. We have record interest payments on that federal debt. We have unfunded pension liabilities. Healthcare is under severe financial strain. And the least painful way to handle these challenges with helping the increasing number of Canadians who are seeing their standard of living fall is through robust economic growth. But that's a choice that Canadians will have to make at the ballot box.